Laura, how does this move forward?
So there's going to be a series of legal steps, and this will happen. What's important to remember here, though, is that Colorado isn't necessarily the state that is going to matter here. You know, if he's not on the ballot, the party can always move to a caucus versus a primary, which they control in the general election. It's not necessarily Colorado that is good. It's usually voted for Democrats, at least since 2008. But what the Supreme Court or a court ruling here we're looking for is, does this either uphold this Colorado ruling, which means there could be other states that have similar court cases that are swing states, Michigan, Arizona, that do matter in the election, or do they say, look, this argument doesn't stand and this whole matter is essentially put to rest?
And we should keep in mind here that while the court in Colorado has said that he incited an insurrection, he hasn't actually been charged with insurrection. He hasn't been convicted of anything, even if he has been charged with a number of felony counts. Mike, we've seen, though, with all of those different charges, historically, that it just galvanizes his base and actually in some ways benefits him. Is this a greater benefit to him or to President Biden, given that it once again just raises to the forefront concerns around ethics and constitutionality and Trump as a candidate?
Well, I would say both, but in the short term, it benefits Trump at a really critical time in the Republican nomination process. We're a few weeks away from those first early primaries in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina. It's the last chance for a Republican to knock him out. And now he's got the party rallying around him. Mm-hmm. He's the center of attention. He's even got his rivals taking his side on this. So in the short term, it helps him. He was already probably going to sew up the Republican nomination, but it helps him do that. It makes it harder for people to stop him on that. But you're right. Over the longer term, there's a good chance this case will drag out over some time. It's a big question for the Supreme Court to decide. Insurrectionist, yes or no, that's probably not the main thing you want to be thinking about you when you're running for president. And it's in there with the court cases chipping away at independent voters.
Well, you mentioned Trump's rivals in the Republican Party. We were just showing on the screen some of what they have said in response to this Colorado ruling. Ron DeSantis said SCOTUS should reverse it. Both Nikki Haley and Chris Christie suggested this shouldn't be up to the courts. It should be up to voters. Vivek Ramaswamy went as far as to say he will withdraw from the primary unless Trump is allowed in it. Should we be surprised, Laura, that all of these people who are running against him are so supportive of him on this matter?
This is really par for the course that the Republican candidates, you've seen sort of Ramaswamy and DeSantis more hew very closely to Trump and very reticent to criticize him. Even, someone like Chris Christie, who has been no fan of Trump's, is saying, look, I agree, I don't agree with this court case. Nikki Haley, the same. So this has been, a real issue for the Republican candidates. You see this, whether that's the ads in Iowa where instead of attacking Trump, DeSantis and Haley are attacking each other. Mm-hmm. Every single candidate is just very afraid to attack Trump, because either one, they're potentially looking for a job in his administration, or they need to appeal to some of his voters to get elected. And so attacking him is not the best strategy.
Well, and of course, the defense isn't just coming at the other presidential candidates level. It's coming in Congress as well. I actually spoke earlier today on Sound On Bloomberg Radio with Republican Congressman Brian Stile of Wisconsin. This was his reaction to Colorado's decision.
I think it's actually pretty simple. Voters should decide elections, not judges. And I think people are frustrated when they have to listen to all the legalese, debate back and forth, rather than just simply allowing voters to have their say in our upcoming elections.
And we also had the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, posting on X, basically saying that this is partisan, is to summarize and paraphrase his words. Should we imagine this is reflective of most Republican members of Congress, Mike?
Yes, it is reflective of most members of Congress who are Republican. But also, all these comments just help amplify the central narrative of President Trump's campaign, that he's being treated unfairly and that there's this deep state that's going after him for, as your prior soundbite was saying, for these legalese things that we don't even want to bother talking about because they're complicated. So it just reinforces the reason for Republican voters to vote for him. And it's got all of his rivals talking about the thing that reinforces his narrative rather than things that reinforce their messages.
Okay, so it has us all talking about those messages and how central this seems to be. Yet it also, I think, this case, as well as another effort with the Supreme Court that Trump is engaged in, asking them not to fast track what Jack Smith has requested here in Washington, this idea that he should be immune because he was a former president. The Supreme Court, Laura, in an election year, is going to be really critical for a number of decisions, not just related to the former president himself, but you could include mifepristone, access to the abortion pill in this as well. How should we be thinking about the court as we head into this election year?
Well, Donald Trump should really be thanking Mitch McConnell right now for helping keep some of these seats open and push through these judges, so that he does have
three of them appointed by him.
6 right-leaning judges, on the court right now, because this will be critical in all of these decisions. We shouldn't necessarily assume that they're all going to necessarily hew to the party line here, but this is going to be sort of the central decider, and this is also probably going to affect Americans' perceptions of the court, again, as they're deciding these highly political decisions at highly political times. Their credibility ratings and views among the American public have been dwindling in the past several years. That's probably only likely to continue with all these hot button issues on board.